I never wanted a TikTok account. I had the app in 2017 before its rebrand, when it was still called Musical.ly. I would do anything to find my old videos that were on that account. I'd even join forces with the feds. Do I look like someone who would join forces with the feds? I stopped using this account in 2018, however, because using it just wasn't fulfilling. It was not surprising that it was eventually bought out and rebranded as TikTok. Anyone who isn't a young teenager would get sick of watching young teenagers lip sync to different songs over and over again. Well, there is one exception to that. In 2020, when Corona hit, everyone at my school had taken the TikTok pill. But I stuck it out. No, I wouldn't be like the rest of the world. I'm a contrarian. That's why I still shop at Amazon. Oh wait, that's called a hypocrite. It wasn't until 2022 that I would dive headfirst into TikTok, soon after I uploaded my first YouTube video to the world. I figured it'd be a great way to reach more people beyond YouTube. At the time, my TikTok actually ended up growing faster than my YouTube channel. My first posts were less than stellar.
Freeze!
I'm thirsty.
I said freeze!
I'm just getting a drink.
It took me a while to find my own voice, on TikTok, but also on YouTube. For a while, I found more success on TikTok, and while I enjoyed some of my time on the app, it's over now. This video isn't just about the TikTok ban and the end of whatever good things we had left in this country. It's also going to serve as a eulogy for my TikTok account. I've had many positive interactions on TikTok. I found some of my favorite creators from the app. I've made actual friends through the app. I made a platform for myself on TikTok. But I've also had a lot of problems with the app. From the start, TikTok was the worst experience that I've had on social media, with my content getting removed and actually suppressed. On top of this, TikTok has by far the worst system for appealing your removed content, with virtually no way to reach an actual human being to talk to about whatever issue you may be having, be it a wrongful strike on a video or just an issue with logging into your account. For a long time, I've considered deleting my TikTok account or just opting out from posting on it ever again. I found my original content that I actually put time into would consistently do worse than a video I could make in 2 minutes using someone else's 5-second sound. This system is not rewarding for someone like me who values putting time and thought into their content. I am not a big fan of posting things without careful thought and consideration. The internet, as we know, does not forget. I've been losing followers on TikTok for months because of what I believe to be a shadow ban. That, or my content really is that fucking dog shit that even my own followers don't want to stick around. But no. Of course that can't be it, right? Posting on Reels, of all places, always rewards me with better views and engagement. While I have no way of making money off of those views, it's not much different when you compare it to the mere pennies that I made from TikTok. I've even started posting YouTube Shorts on my channel as a replacement for TikTok. I do enjoy making shorter videos, so I like having a place to post them where I can actually get paid. Guys, free labor. What am I, an intern? I'm not here to boast about what a great platform Instagram or even YouTube is compared to TikTok, because we all know that they are far from perfect. I'm here to say goodbye to TikTok once and for all, and to say my farewells to social media as we know it. TikTok is only the start. I obviously mean that in the sense of government overreach, but also in the sense that this won't be the last time that Trump will meddle with our lives on our social platforms. This video isn't just about TikTok. TikTok may be back for now, but its already sour reputation has spoiled to a point of no return in my opinion. While some went through actual withdrawals within the 17-hour time period that TikTok was banned, I instead breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, we could stop hearing about TikTok. Then I saw that it was back. That's right. After years of the government threatening to ban TikTok, it finally happened. On January 18th, users were shocked to open up the app on their phone, or if you're mentally ill like me, the website on their desktop, to see a message that read, "We regret that a US law banning TikTok will take effect on January 19th and force us to make our services temporarily unavailable. We're working to restore our service in the US as soon as possible, and we appreciate your support. Please stay tuned." The app owners didn't wait a second too long to ban the app though, and in an effort to avoid the possibility of being heavily fined, removed the app from US servers later that day, hours before the ban was set to take effect. This time, users were met with a message that read, "Sorry, TikTok isn't available right now. A law banning TikTok has been enacted in the US. Unfortunately, that means you can't use TikTok for now. We are fortunate that President Trump has indicated that he will work with us on a solution to reinstate TikTok once he takes office. Please stay tuned." Users faced two options: learn more or close app. The ban came after years of the US government edging the American population. Imagine that. Every American busing at the same time. That'd be like the second Great Flood or something. A quick history of the proposed TikTok ban will show us that Trump was actually one of the first politicians to even consider a ban.
We're looking at TikTok. We may be banning TikTok. We may be doing some other things. There are a couple of options, but a lot of things are happening. So we'll see what happens. But we are looking at a lot of alternatives with respect to TikTok.
This came soon after India banned the app from their country's servers in July of 2020. AP News reported in a convenient timeline of the ban that in August of 2020, Trump issued a sweeping but vague executive order banning American companies from any transaction with ByteDance and its subsidiaries, including TikTok. Several days later, he issued a second order demanding that ByteDance divest itself of TikTok's US operations within 90 days. CNN reported at the time that President Donald Trump said that he will ban the popular short-form video app TikTok from operating in the United States, rejecting a potential deal for Microsoft to buy the app from its Chinese-owned parent company. With Biden soon to take office, however, Trump extended the deadline until ultimately letting the ban fizzle away completely, at least for the general populace. In February 2023, TikTok was banned from federal government devices. NPR said at the time that the White House, the Pentagon, the Department of Homeland Security, and the State Department already prohibit staff from having TikTok on government-issued devices, so this ban would extend the rule for all US government employees. No one really had an issue with that, though. I mean, why the fuck is a senator using a work phone to scroll through TikTok anyway?
This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe, a winner. A winner. And here's what I have to say. The people of China have come forth. The Tibetans have come forth and said on TikTok.
The government was not going to forget about TikTok, though. This sweeping ban for federal employees was only the start. Following this ban, TikTok CEO Shao Zhichu attended a 6-hour congressional hearing in March of 2023. While the hearing didn't sway our ignorant lawmakers one bit, it did generate a lot of incredible memes, so that's always a plus.
Mr. Shou, I'd like to direct your attention to the screen for a short video, if you don't mind.
2 months after this disastrous hearing, the governor of Montana banned TikTok in the state. The governor signed Senate Bill 419, making Montana the first state in the nation to ban TikTok and prohibit mobile application stores from offering TikTok within the state. The governor was quoted saying, "The Chinese Communist Party using TikTok to spy on Americans, violate their privacy, and collect their personal, private, and sensitive information is well documented. Today, Montana takes the most decisive action of any state to protect Montanans' private data and sensitive personal information from being harvested by the Chinese Communist Party." As if Montana's state legislature wasn't bad enough, now they've removed the only source of dopamine that residents have there. Fortunately or unfortunately, the government is not very efficient. The law was due to take effect on January 1st, 2024, but TikTok sued, as did a group of its users, both requesting a preliminary injunction. A U.S. district court judge granted the injunction, stopping the law from taking effect while the proceedings progress. Dan York and John Morris reported for the Internet Society, however, claiming that the Montana law would not work unless more data was collected from users in order to geo-block the app from the state. Furthermore, this data would be requested of everyone in the US, regardless of whether they are a Montana resident. As far as I can find online, the Montana ban still has never taken effect, and up until the national ban, TikTok was still available on app stores for users in the state. It wouldn't be until early 2024 that we would hear about the TikTok ban again. In January, multiple social media CEOs testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee in a child safety hearing. Now, the only thing worth taking away from this hearing is Mark Zuckerberg trying his hand at a new human emotion: empathy. In March, Congress passed a bill forcing TikTok's owners, ByteDance, to sell to a US company within 180 days or be banned. The Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act was passed with a sweeping 352 majority vote in the House. The Senate followed, with Biden signing it into law. As you all know, I am like Mark Zuckerberg, and therefore I'm not human, so I don't make mistakes. But this time, I accidentally did leave something out of this video when I was writing this script initially. The bill that I am quoting in this video is the wording that Congress used to ban TikTok. However, the bill that I was quoting was H.R. 7521, the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act. This bill on its own passed the House, but before it passed in the Senate and then was signed by President Joe Biden at the time, it was modified to include a huge foreign aid package to specifically Israel, among other things. This bill is H.R. 815, making emergency supplemental appropriations for the fiscal year ending in September 30th, 2024, and for other purposes. The TikTok ban was the other purpose. On top of this, in this bill, like I said, it included the part with the TikTok ban in it, but the time for a sale increased from 180 days to a minimum of 270 days for ByteDance to sell TikTok to an American company. Again, the wording is exactly the same in HR 815. They just added a bunch of other bullshit on top of it, and that's the actual law that passed the Senate to the president and actually became law that ended up leading to TikTok getting banned. So I just wanted to clarify that. In the bill, it says, it shall be unlawful for an entity to distribute, maintain, or update, or enable the distribution, maintenance, or updating of a foreign adversary-controlled application by carrying out, within the land or maritime borders of the United States, any of the following: providing services to distribute, maintain, or update such foreign adversary-controlled application, providing internet hosting services to enable the distribution, maintenance, or updating of such foreign adversary-controlled applications for users. In May of 2024, ByteDance filed a lawsuit against the bill, saying it was unconstitutional, and in December, a federal appeals court panel unanimously upheld a law that could lead to a ban on TikTok. Then, on January 17th, in TikTok Inc. versus Garland, the Supreme Court unanimously upheld the law to ban TikTok, saying in their opinion, a law targeting a foreign adversary's control over a communications platform is in many ways different in kind from the regulations of non-expressive activity that we have subjected to First Amendment scrutiny. Those differences, the act's focus on foreign government, the congressionally determined adversary relationship between that foreign government and the United States, and the casual steps between the regulations and the alleged burden on protected speech may impact whether First Amendment scrutiny applies. The opinion goes on to say, the government also supports the challenge provisions with a content-neutral justification, preventing China from collecting vast amounts of sensitive data from 170 million US TikTok users. That rationale is decidedly content agnostic. It neither references the content of speech on TikTok nor reflects a disagreement with the message such speech conveys. Data collection and analysis is a common practice in this digital age, but TikTok's scale and susceptibility to foreign adversary control, together with the vast swaths of sensitive data the platform collects, justify the differential treatment to address the government's national security concerns. For years, I've been making fun of the TikTok ban. I have a whole playlist dedicated to it on YouTube. I never imagined that it would actually happen. This is like Gen Z's 9/11. Where were you when TikTok was banned? I remember that day vividly. Where is it? Where'd it go?
TikTok suddenly went dark tonight in the U.S. This is the message users get when they try to open the popular app. The social media giant went offline.
No. It can't be. Well, we're all gonna die anyway. This is the end, isn't it? I'm sorry. In December of 2023, a Pew Research poll showed that the share of U.S. adults who say they would support the U.S. government banning TikTok has declined from 50% in March to 38% now. I wonder why the U.S. consistently passes laws that are not popular opinion. No reason. We weren't in withdrawal for long though, since thanks to Donald Trump, TikTok was brought back from the dead. On January 20th, Donald Trump signed an executive order that gives TikTok a 75-day extension during which the United States will not enforce the law meant to force the app's owners to sell the company. The order does not overturn the law, it just gives TikTok more time to sell to a US company. Although everyone who was actually paying attention could see that Trump was just playing everyone. For one, he was one of the most vocal voices on banning TikTok for years. And while someone can obviously always have a change of heart, this is Donald Trump we're talking about. One of the biggest grifters in politics. Secondly, Trump ended up joining the app last year and has grown his following to nearly 15 million users. He has since credited the app for helping him win over young voters.
I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok,
he said during a December news conference.
TikTok had an impact.
Finally, many have pointed to the common political tactic that fascist governments often do in order to sway public opinion. Create a non-issue and then solve it. Again, Trump was staunchly anti-TikTok for years. Now, he can be the savior for over 170 million Americans who use TikTok nearly every day. I mean, even James Charles jokingly praised Trump while he was tweaking out over a social media app being unavailable for a few hours.
This is crazy. This is fucking crazy. God, and I can't, like, now I'm rooting for Trump? Ew! God, like, make America fucking great again, I guess. God.
Hi all, James here.
It's so obviously a ploy to get Americans to side with Trump and ignore everything else that he's already done a mere 2 weeks in office, including, but not limited to, nearly destroying every federal grant program overnight, almost crippling the economy of every North American country overnight, creating laws to prevent trans people from having their gender markers on federal IDs match the gender they transition to, stopping federally funded hospitals and insurance programs from providing gender transition healthcare to transgender people under the age of 19, and ending birthright citizenship. This is one of those things where the domestic politics has become so upside down and crazy that it turns out there's only upside for Trump now, said Bill Bishop, a China expert who has been closely following the back and forth. If the ban ends up being enforced, he said, Trump will say it was on outgoing President Joe Biden's watch. And if it does come back, then Trump is a savior, and he will be rewarded by both users, as well as a company which he said is now beholden to Trump and will have an incentive to make sure the content on the platform is favorable to him. Anupam Chandler, a professor of law and technology at Georgetown University, said to the New York Times that TikTok will go to any lengths to please the authorities while facing this ban. Hell, the CEO, Xiao Chu, even personally thanked Trump in a video posted to his TikTok account soon after the Supreme Court's decision. On top of this, he's even visited Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. Talk about a security risk. Have you seen the papers that Trump stores in the guest bathroom? In 2020, when Trump initially proposed a TikTok ban, the New York Times reported that a senior official with the Commerce Department pushed back on the idea that a ban would curtail Americans' freedom of speech, saying the administration had targeted these apps in part because they are used to censor speech. Yet, throughout all this, we have never been given specifics on why TikTok is such a major national security threat. Yeah, they collect our data, but so does Google, and Facebook, and Twitter, and Instagram. What's the difference here? Well, it's a company owned and operated in China. ByteDance, of course, also owns Douyin, the heavily censored TikTok alternative for Chinese users. While Xiao Chu is indeed Singaporean, his app is owned by a much larger private company that is based in China. In 2018, China amended its national intelligence law, which requires any organization or citizen to support, assist, and cooperate with national intelligence work. That means ByteDance is legally bound to help with gathering intelligence. There is also a cybersecurity law in China, which says the state will take measures to monitor, prevent, and handle cybersecurity risks and threats arising both within and outside the PRC's, People's Republic of China's, territory. I do not doubt that TikTok gathers sensitive data about its own users. How else could it perfectly curate me an algorithm consisting of geopolitics and Zelda memes? But I, and many other people, don't believe for a second that the ban is only about a supposed national security threat. I mean, color me stupid, but where is the evidence that TikTok is collecting and sharing such large swaths of sensitive data about Americans with the Chinese government to pose such an extreme risk? While yes, speculation can be reasoning enough in some cases, I don't think it is here. In this extremely anti-Chinese country, TikTok users are demanding more evidence than just speculation. Let's not forget that apps like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram are all banned in China. I highly doubt that the Chinese government's true intentions behind these bans was to prevent US companies from collecting data on their citizens. The Chinese government very clearly has these apps banned to prevent the dissemination of free speech within their country. WeChat, the most popular messaging app in the country, is heavily monitored by the government. Users cannot so much as criticize President Xi Jinping without the risk of these chat logs being leveraged against them in an arrest. No, even if you don't personally trust the Chinese government with your data, which is completely valid, that is not the primary motivator for the US government to ban it. I know to some of you what I'm about to say may sound conspiratorial, but believe me, it's not. The US government, in my opinion, is afraid of TikTok not because of a national security risk, but rather because the app is an easy and convenient way for people to share wide swaths of different information. To further prove my point, why are other apps and services like Temu still available to use in the United States if we need our data protected from the CCP? Can't our shopping information also be used as blackmail by the Chinese government? I mean, I know mine could. I better stop there though. I don't want to give our politicians any more ideas. Before you know it, we'll have shopping addicts rioting in the fucking streets. Yes, of course, the TikTok ban was proposed well before some of the information that we're seeing on TikTok now was popular on the app, namely pro-Palestine content or even free Luigi videos. However, we saw time and time again the effort to ban TikTok failed to fully erect, until this past year. Even more concerning were some politicians' explicit remarks on TikTok's pro-Palestine content. For example, The Intercept reported that Senator Mitt Romney said in May,
"Some wonder why there was such an overwhelming support for us to shut down potentially TikTok or other entities of that nature. If you look at the postings on TikTok and the number of mentions of Palestinians relative to other social media sites, it's overwhelmingly so among TikTok broadcast."
They also reported that Representative Matt Gallagher wrote in an op-ed in December that the morally bankrupt view that pro-Palestine young Americans held was increasingly via social media and predominantly TikTok. Like I said, I don't doubt that TikTok having access to Americans' data is genuinely an issue, but banning TikTok was never meant to solve the issue of the collection of user data online. If that was the case, then the US government would have passed sweeping user privacy legislation that would affect every tech company that American citizens use, but they didn't. Every social media platform that we use promotes rage bait, different kinds of propaganda, and lies to some extent. But the problem with TikTok is that these dangerous engagement tactics are supposedly anti-American, and that is the worst of all. Not Elon Musk peddling the great replacement theory on Twitter. Media literacy is a national issue, and not being able to recognize propaganda isn't going to change whether or not the app is banned. With Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk running nearly every platform we use now, though, Americans will be less likely to recognize dangerous pro-American propaganda. TikTok absolutely has censorship and misinformation issues. I face them myself while trying to post on there. But I would rather have access to social media platforms from various different countries than even entertain the idea of having access only to US owned and operated countries. In a PBS article detailing why a ban on TikTok won't solve data privacy concerns, it mentions a 2022 study by Consumer Reports which found that TikTok is using the same data tracking practices as Facebook, Meta, and others, collecting information about your online and offline activities, your location, what other websites you're visiting, and what links you click on. If you genuinely do not think that Meta, Google, and Twitter having all of your fucking biological data is just as bad as China's government having access to it, then you are sorely wrong. Even if TikTok ends up being sold, it will most likely be in the hands of Elon Musk or another tech billionaire similar to him. Is that really the future you want? If your answer is no, then I hope you can realize that this ban is absolute hogwash. Elon Musk is practically running the government right now. Do you seriously believe that he won't start to censor people more often than he already has to stay in bed with Trump? Again, I have to reiterate that the American government and its tech companies are no more your friend than the Chinese government. If American social media companies are the only ones available to us, then our own government could possibly control all of it, what we see and say. If you think that our government wouldn't turn on its own citizens in order to save itself, then you are wrong. To add on to that, if you think that our data from American-controlled companies has not already been given to other countries, including China, then you are also wrong. Facebook Messenger alone collects vastly more data than TikTok does, as far as we know anyway. Zach Doffman wrote for Forbes in 2021 that, "We all know Facebook makes its living from our data. That's how we pay for its free services. But there does need to be a limit. If you're a Messenger user, Facebook admits that it monitors the content sent in private messages between users." Now this article came in the wake of Apple's new privacy labels featured in the iOS App Store, which seriously pissed Facebook off since they had to admit that they collect not only your contacts info, but also your health and fitness stats and sensitive info, among other things. It should come as no surprise that along with other tech billionaires, TikTok CEO Shao Chu had a front row seat at the inauguration. AP News said that that's a shift from tradition, especially for a president who has characterized himself as a champion of the working class. Seats so close to the president are usually reserved for the president's family, past presidents, and other honored guests. Oh, but AP News. Billionaires are but among the most honored guests. Similar to how Mark Zuckerberg is desperately trying to be one of the cool kids by pleasing the Trump administration, like getting rid of fact-checking and trying to bring a more masculine energy to the workplace, TikTok has also seemingly bent to the whims of Donald Trump. While TikTok, like every other social media platform, was already ripe with censorship, users have reported an uptick in it since the ban, particularly within leftist content. One commonly reported phrase being censored was apparently "Free Palestine." However, while some users had issues posting content with this phrase, others didn't at all. A spokesperson for TikTok told 404 Media that the platform's policies and algorithms did not change over the weekend, adding that they're working on restoring US operations back to normal. They're expecting some temporary instability as services are restored, they said, which could affect some features or access. They said that TikTok does not have a policy against people saying "Free Palestine." Other people reported that comments saying "Free Luigi" were being taken down. Some reported that searches like fascism and Donald Trump rigged election failed to provide any results. People were also claiming that their algorithms changed for the worse, but this might have just been the fact that every American user stopped posting all at once for over half a day. It's just like they described in Revelations. While TikTok is available for use again, it's not actually listed on app stores anymore, meaning that it is still technically banned. Even if it gets sold, it will likely never be the same, since it's doubtful that China would sell their secret algorithmic weapon to an American buyer. Like Flappy Bird, phones that still have the app are being sold for a pretty penny. A lot of pretty pennies, actually. Among them is an eBay listing for a device that's described as a brand new Apple iPhone 16 Pro Max containing TikTok for $50,000 or best offer. According to eBay's site, nearly 80 shoppers are keeping their eyes on the listing. Now, why the fuck did I have to delete the app from my phone just hours before the ban? I could have fucked some poor schmuck over for money! Now I just have Mark Zuckerberg spying on me! Regardless, in the news of the ban, TikTok users were finally fed up with the US government. Finally. You know, the other stuff that they've done, that doesn't matter. This was the last straw. In an act of protest, if you could call it that, TikTokers downloaded a similar Chinese app called Zhongshu, or Redno. TikTok refugees, as they were called, fled to the app, making it the #1 downloaded app in the American iOS App Store and Google Play Store for a period of time. NPR reported that a person close to Redno told Reuters that more than 700,000 new users joined in just 2 days, and that more than a fifth of Rednote's total app downloads so far this month have come from the US. The app, which had been previously available only in Mandarin, now offered a translate option for both Chinese and American users. RedNote is often considered China's replacement for Instagram, with a strong focus on fashion, beauty, and shopping. Initially, it launched in 2013 originally named Hong Kong Shopping Guide, and Reuters reports that it aimed at Chinese tourists looking for local recommendations. Its name was changed to Zhongshu as it grew in popularity, which literally means Little Red Book, a phrase that traditionally refers to a collection of quotations from Chinese Communist leader Mao Zedong. Now the app has over 300 million users in China, with 70% of its users being women. Many liken the great migration of American users to RedNote to a cultural exchange. For decades, the United States and China have been sworn enemies. Now Americans were directly engaging with Chinese citizens who were sharing their day-to-day lives, humorous jokes, and even teaching American users basic Mandarin. Ivy Yang, a Chinese tech analyst and founder of consulting firm Wavelet Strategy, said the new American users had unexpectedly created one of the most organic forms of cultural exchange between the US and China we've seen in recent years. The exchanges between Chinese and American citizens were unique. There are not a lot of options for us to communicate with one another, seeing that almost every American social media app is banned in China. It was authentic. But not really. The reality is that RedNote is heavily censored, like much of everything else in China. NPR reported that in 2022, the China Digital Times, a California-based nonprofit that covers censorship in China, published a leaked trove of documents showing how the content moderation team at RedNote bans or limits posts about sensitive topics. Those include some 546 derogatory nicknames for Chinese leader Xi Jinping, as well as discussion of events such as labor strikes, geographic discrimination, student suicides, and criticism of the Chinese Communist Party. On top of this, unsurprisingly, American users found their content or accounts being removed over showing too much skin or mentioning LGBTQ rights in a post. RedNote, as backed up by its own Chinese users, is not meant to be an app for speaking about politics. It is meant to be an app that shows the most picturesque parts of China, fashion, travel, etc. Because of the influx of Americans and their American ideals, it's been speculated that China will move to block American IPs from using the app, or from the version of the app that will be shown to Chinese citizens. What has been most shocking to me are the Americans who are going out of their way to suck China's well-oiled cock. Now, don't get me wrong, there is no doubt in my mind that certain aspects of China are better than America. There is also absolutely no doubt in my mind that we, as Americans, have been fed anti-communist and anti-Chinese propaganda for decades. This isn't even speculation, it's just the truth. When you open up an app that shows how much easier Chinese citizens have in their communist-run government, of course, you're going to feel lied to and even more disillusioned by the American promise. However, I think that people are quick to forget that Chinese citizens are heavily censored. Sure, they have better public transport, maybe better healthcare to some small degree, but they can't criticize their government. They have no freedom of press, no basic rights as citizens like we supposedly have in the United States. When you really look at the Chinese government closely, it's obvious that we've had far more in common with them for years than some of us would like to admit. I do think that the flooding of Americans to RedNote was good in some ways. Anti-Chinese propaganda will only become more prevalent as America becomes more authoritarian and attempts to remain the dominant global superpower. Anti-communist arguments against China are also heavily disguised xenophobia. For years, we Americans have been sold this idea that China is the worst country on planet Earth. Seeing through it all is a valuable skill, but so is seeing through all kinds of propaganda, including the Chinese governments. No country is a utopia, and both China and the United States are far from that idealized image. I am certainly not a propaganda expert. I think a lot of us would be lying to ourselves if we said that we were. I'm not ever trying to come across as a know-it-all. What I'm trying to say is that seeing people seriously fall for the idea that China is this flowery utopia compared to the United States is honestly shocking to me. Of course, just because you see something positive about China does not mean that it's propaganda. However, going on a heavily censored Chinese app and only seeing the positives of living in China is extremely questionable. The other issue with RedNote is that users' data could possibly be more at risk than it was on TikTok. Angela Zhang, a professor at law at the University of Southern California who specializes in the study of Chinese tech relation, told NBC News that user data collected by RedNote will be stored in China, whereas TikTok's users' data is stored out of China. RedNote must comply with Chinese laws, including the Personal Information Protection Law, the Data Security Law, and cross-border data transfer rules. Unlike TikTok, whose algorithms are subject to close scrutiny by Oracle, RedNote's algorithms are subject to close scrutiny by the Chinese government. These refugees, however, have boldly stated that they don't care if China has access to their data. While I personally didn't sign up for the app, I don't blame them. Like I said, China already has our data, not necessarily from TikTok, but from other US-run social media platforms. All that this has shown is that people are fed up with the government meddling in their precious social media platforms. Clearly, people would give anything to have access to an app that isn't controlled by the same two guys who are riding Trump's dick day in and day out. While people are laughing at influencers losing their primary stream of income, the government is laughing even harder at us. Trump won. He brought back TikTok. The US government is on track to becoming a fascist state, and this app is literally only the tip of the iceberg. There's a possibility that you're like me, that you kind of fucking hate TikTok because it's just like every other social media platform. It's addictive, rage-inducing, and a waste of time. I know that I've joked about banning the app in the past, but I genuinely hope that you can come away from this video with a realization. Despite the serious issues with TikTok, banning the app is even more dangerous than the app could have ever been. I personally have been torn as to whether to delete my TikTok account. I don't find that it brings any value to me currently. Like I stated at the beginning of the video, my engagement is poor, and I don't think that TikTok is serving me any purpose in furthering my career. Part of me is saddened at the thought of my content and following being completely removed forever, but the other part of me feels like TikTok has reached the end of its lifespan. I feel a dark time is coming, and call me a loony, but I feel like TikTok, regardless of the ban, has become a strange place that I don't want to engage with anymore. While I've enjoyed some of the time that I've spent there, I think it's time to say goodbye. Great, now I just have to wait 30 days till I can create a new account with that email. What? Did you seriously think I'd stop using the app completely? I'm a YouTuber. I need content for my videos. I can't come up with shit on my own, you guys know this. This was never about protecting our data. At this point, the only way for us to protect our own data is to completely get rid of our phones and computers. But no one is going to do that, and the US government sure as hell isn't going to protect us. They've never actually once cared about protecting us. There's a reason Meta changed all their policies when Trump was about to take office. These people will stop at absolutely nothing to bend over backwards to please Daddy Trump. I had no doubt in my mind that Mark was a bottom feeder, but I never thought that he could bottom this hard.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more.
Well, that's it for me, and that's it for this video. Please let me know what you all think about the TikTok ban, whether you're still going to use TikTok, whether you've actually used TikTok. Just comment down below anything you want to comment down below about this video. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you like me, you can subscribe. I post videos about whatever I really feel like talking about, so if that sounds like your thing, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you know when I post a video. Before the video ends, I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon members who are part of my Alpha and Delta tiers. Thank you so much to Kat the Time Lord, Olivia Schutt, and Romana Zhorkovko. I really, seriously, I really mean this. I appreciate all of your continued support. You guys mean a lot to me. All of my Patreon members mean a lot to me, so thank you all for your continued support. If you want to become a member, the link, it's always down below, okay? Anyway, I really hope you all enjoyed this video, but more importantly than that, I really hope I see you in the next video. You better be there, watching. Because like Mark, I know if you're not. Okay, you'll be there, right?
I wanna